If you've clicked on this video because you love swatching colors, playing with palettes, or just seeing how someone chooses their favorite, you're in the right place. Today I'm swatching the watercolors I use for the Fodder School 5 challenge this year. I've already done this with acrylics and now I want to see which watercolors match my chosen palette of mostly pinks and greens. I'll share how swatching can be a calming, mindful practice, a way of slowing down and tuning into what feels good. And at the very end, I'll take the blue swatch that didn't make it into my palette and turn it into a double-page junk journal spread. Let's begin with a very simple setup. A block of watercolor paper I found at the op shop for just $2, my watercolor set and a simple brush. These are my acrylic swatch samples I've already made for this year's Fodder School 5 challenge. I neatly clipped them together on a big key ring and I love it. I love going with my fingers over them. And I feel so happy when I find craft supplies at the thrift shop. It reminds us that creativity doesn't need to be expensive. We can find great supplies sometimes in unexpected places. So let's tear off a piece of the paper and I'm ready to start. You know what I really love about color palettes? They are never just about paint. They are also about all the different parts of ourselves that want to be heard. My inner child has the loudest voice in this one. She grabbed the pinks, the bright greens and shouted, "Mine!" She's delighted, like someone just gave her the biggest gift ever. But then, as always, the older, steadier parts of me stepped in and say, "Hang on. That's a bit much. Let's ground it with some browns and maybe add some black and white for balance." And so this palette becomes like a little inner family. Bright, playful, shiny colors sitting right alongside the quiet, earthy ones. Just like us, we are never one thing. We are a mix of past and present, of childlike joy and adult steadiness. Green has always felt like grounding to me, a reminder that I can exhale. Brown, that I use later, whispers of stability, of foundation that hold me even when I forget they are there. And pink belongs to the little one who insists on joy even when life feels heavy. And the shiny colors, gold and silver and all the metallics, they are her treasures. She doesn't call them metallics, she just says the shinies, and I love that. They remind me of the small glittering moments in life that don't shout but shimmer quietly when you pause long enough to notice. And this is why swatching feels more like meditation than a technique. It's not about neatness or skills. It's about giving space to all those inner voices, letting each one dip its brush, leave its mark, and be part of something bigger. I often tell my clients that healing isn't about erasing parts of yourself. It's about giving them a seat at the table, or in this case, a square on the page. And what I want from this process isn't just a neat palette for my course. It's a sense of alignment, a feeling that when I sit down to create, I've gathered all of me at the table, my playful parts, my cautious parts, even the ones that still worry about making mistakes. And I want to look at these colors and feel invited, like they are saying, "Come as you are, we'll meet you here," because art can be such a kind mirror. It reflects not only what looks beautiful, but also what feels true. My inner child just wants to have fun. She doesn't care about the rules. She wants to splash paint to make something pink just because it feels good. But the older parts want reassurance. They are looking for grounding, for structure, for something that will hold us steady. And my hope is that by swatching these colors side by side, I will find that balance. A palette that feels both joyful and safe. Of course, it's not always that simple. There's a part of me that second guesses the bright colors. She whispers, "Aren't they too much, too childish? Shouldn't you pick something more sophisticated?" And then there's the pressure to get it right, to make the perfect choice, the perfect spread. That perfectionist voice can be very loud inside of me. It wants to keep me safe from judgment, but it also steals the joy if I listen too closely. And if I make mistakes, like you just saw there when I splashed the water on my paper and the color started running. Sometimes even the act of slowing down feels uncomfortable. I notice the restless urge to move on quickly, to skip the swatching and just get to the real project. That's the part of me that finds stillness sometimes difficult, because stillness also means I have to be with myself, and that's not always easy. So, here I am with all these competing voices, the child delighted by color, the cautious elder wanting safety, the perfectionist worry about judgment, and the restless part that just wants to move on. It's a bit crowded in here, and yet that's the truth of most creative processes. We don't sit down to the page alone. We sit down with all of our parts. And what shifts is the moment I stop trying to silence any of them. Instead, I let each part have its color. The child gets her pinks and shinies, and the older parts get their browns, their blacks, and their grounding greens. Even the perfectionist is allowed to hover over the edges as long as she doesn't take the brush away from me. And something soft happens then. Instead of fighting for control, the colors start to sit together. Bright next to earthy, playful beside steady. It's like a small dance on the page. Each shade finds its rhythm, its way of being. I notice how the child leans into the joy without apology, and how the older parts relax, seeing that the brightness doesn't threaten them. I realize that this isn't about choosing the perfect palette. It's about allowing space for all of me, about holding the playful and the cautious, the bold and the quiet sit side by side. And that lesson stretches beyond this page. It's exactly what I try to teach others. You don't need to get rid of parts of yourself to feel whole. You need to give them a place to belong. And when I let that happen, the page breathes. There's room for curiosity, for experimentation, for surprise. The shinies sparkle beside the grounding tones, and I feel a kind of calm settle in me. It's not just the colors that are finding harmony. It's me too, the parts I sometimes push away or try to tame. In that moment, I can truly appreciate the beauty of all of us being allowed to show up exactly as we are. And I have a little voice inside me, but what about the colors I set aside, the ones that didn't quite fit the palette, like this blue swatch? It wasn't chosen for the Fodder School challenge, and yet here it is, patiently waiting, and I think maybe it's time to give it its own page, its own little moment, to see what story it wants to tell, and to play with the scraps and textures that feel right alongside it. So, today, to me, blue feels like memory. It has a softness to it, the calm of a clear sky, but I also feel the ache of something that feels distant, which feels fitting because alongside it I'm finding scraps from postcards I brought back from Hamburg. pieces of paper that remind me of the visit to my elderly mother in Germany a couple of months ago. Our shared memories, but also the smell and the texture of the city I grew up in, but now only visit. These fragments become more than just decoration. They are little carriers of my belonging, of my roots. I notice how my inner child reacts to these scraps. She loves the playful tearing, the glue on fingers, the sense that nothing has to be neat. For her, it's all about the joy of putting things together in unexpected ways. But my older parts hold the memories with a different weight. They remember the complexities, family, aging, distance, time, and so the spread becomes a conversation between delight and reverence, between playfulness and tenderness. And then there is this tiny picture frame. It's empty, and I find that feels important. Sometimes what matters most is not what we fill our lives with, but the space we leave open. An invitation for imagination or for something still to come. I find therapy often works that way too. We don't rush to fill every silence. We leave gaps, trusting that meaning will grow there in its own time. There's some fabric layered in here too, soft and frayed. It makes me think about how fragile things can be. And how beauty often comes from exactly that very fragility. A reminder that softness isn't weakness, but the quiet strength that comes from our hearts. Finally, I add the word love. Just one word, simple, steady. It feels like the thread that ties everything together. Love for my family, love for my mom, love for my memories of Hamburg. Love for the parts of ourselves that don't always get chosen first. Love as the quiet grounding sender underneath it all. What I love most is how the blue swatch holds all of this. It started as the color that didn't belong, the one that's set aside. But now it's the backdrop, the foundation, the keeper of scraps and stories. And that makes me smile because it feels so true to life. How often do the overlooked parts turn out to be the ones carrying the heart of the story? And so, by the end of what I have isn't just a set of swatches. It's a map of my inner world. It shows where delight lives, where steadiness holds me, where doubt still lingers, and where light quietly shimmers in the corners. This is why I love doing something as simple as swatching. It's calming, yes, but it's also profoundly connecting. Each brushstroke is a reminder that creativity isn't about making something impressive. It's about making space for yourself. And when I take that blue swatch, the one I didn't even plan to use, and turn it into a journal spread, it feels like the perfect ending. Because that's often how life works too. The color we didn't think we needed becomes the one that tells the truest story. So here it is, a palette, a page, and a little reminder that we can hold joy and steadiness, caution and delight all at the same time. And that, to me, feels like real creativity. I wish you a wonderful day. Keep on crafting and keep on being in contact with yourself.